In the title report, there was a REA, which is a reciprocal easement agreement, and also there was a property association. So the property association has about 6 buildings inside of that. It's managed by a third-party association, and the expense categories are association fees. We'll see the expenses a little bit later. But I just want to give you a feel for how this property was situated with respect to the cash flows. Okay, so the next layer, okay, for the expense allocation is the reciprocal easement agreement. There's 2 buildings inside the reciprocal easement agreement, and according to the way that it's written, it's the REA is managed. These expenses and these maintenance responsibilities are managed by the subject property owner. So if you have this under contract, that means that is you. All the expenses are split 50-50 with the neighbor. Also, it's not on the sheet, but also there's a 15% administrative fee that the property owner can charge for processing, for processing the maintenance. All right. So the expenses include parking lot, lighting, and landscaping. All right. So then we have the site, which is our subject property, shopping center, and all the expenses are paid 100% by the property owner, reimbursed by tenants per lease. And here are the categories. Operating expenses controllable, which is the building maintenance, trash, and OPEX, not controllables, HOA dues, management fees, CAM electric, and then also taxes and insurance. Okay, so this is important because if you're buying this property, you need to know what it is you're getting yourself into. So if we went back to the asset criteria, if you're the investor, you said core plus. Core means, this is a simple investment. Core plus typically involve acquisition of stabilized assets, which provide regular low-risk cash flow over a period of time longer than 5 years. You got minimal exposure to tenant turnover, and you got a steady stream of income with minimal management responsibilities. So this last piece right here, seller says, yeah, this thing's triple net, meets your criteria. But and when you dig into it, all of a sudden, wait a minute, I'm responsible for doing things on the neighbor's property. So maybe if you were the investor, you decide, hey, this doesn't fit my criteria, but let's dig a little deeper just to make sure that we've got the full picture on this deal. So we read through the leases and we realize that these expenses need to be passed through. So what we've done is I've created an adjusted reciprocal easement agreement expense pro rata calculation. A lot of big words for figure out who needs to be paying what. So the neighbor property, you've got them allocated here 50%, right, according to the reciprocal easement agreement. And the rest of these tenants need to make up the balance of that other 50% so that we can get to 100. So basically what I did, since it is 50-50, you basically can mathematically cut this in half to achieve your adjusted allocation. So of the expenses that are allocated to the REA, here is what the adjusted pro rata share will be from our tenants in our shopping center. All right, and so we're going to see how that all flows through our detailed reimbursement method here in a minute. All right, cool. So we're going to look at, let's go ahead and check out our expenses. So here's our reimbursable expenses, okay? I went ahead and put REA next to this so that it's a little easier to follow through in the next few workflows. So here's our landscaping, you know, parking lot lighting, again, it's at the REA level. HOA dues, that's actually at the site level. Here's our CAM electric, building maintenance, management fee, property taxes, insurance, and trash. So all of these are actually fixed, but if I wanted to, I could come in and say, let's say this expense category was interior electric. It's not, but let's say that it is. And so if there's not a tenant in the space, then they're not going to be using electric, right? So then I would put 0% fixed. So it kind of helps on these variable expenses to utilize the percent fixed to get a little bit more accurate picture of what your you know, your financials are going to look like in the pro forma. All right, so that's our expenses. Out of the expenses, I created in categories, I created groups, expense groups. All right, so here's my REA expense group, and landscape and lighting. So 100% of these expenses can go into this expense group for the REA. All right, I've created another expense group for the site for the operating expenses on the controllable. So controllable expenses, according to these leases, were building maintenance, trash, and then also it will be allowed for the REA expense group to be controllable as well. Okay, so here is our not controllable expense groups. And this is going to be real important to help us properly run the detailed reimbursement method. Okay,